Everyone, welcome to this webinar, and thank you for everyone who's joined us today. This is all about building your confidence and enjoying a better work-life balance. So I'm really excited to welcome you here. Just to begin, like who this is for, I created this webinar for women in hospitality who are leaders or aspiring leaders, and you can be either front of house or back of house. And I know the challenges are always the same. Maybe there's a struggle a little bit with both or either one, confidence or well-being. And it's not unusual because we all experience that at some point or the other. When we have a new growth opportunity, and well-being is a constant struggle. And I don't think it's anything unusual for me to say every one of us knows what it's like in hospitality. And it manifests in many ways. You might be feeling unsure of how you're performing, feeling overwhelmed with how much you have on your plate. There's this feeling undervalued, feeling unseen and unheard in your work, being very drained at the end of the day and not having to give to your personal life, not having to give to your loved ones, for yourself in your free time. You find yourself heading for burnout constantly. You are kind of everything to everyone as a leader. You're like their support system. And you're also drained because you're kind of absorbing energy from others. And this is like everyone's offloading a lot of things on you. So it could manifest in a lot of these ways. So right now you might want less of being anxious about how you're doing, having self-doubt, procrastination, self-conscious of whether you're doing things right, whether the answers you're giving people on your team are right. Having stress and overwhelm from not knowing what to do, because I know that not all of us have that support system. You might be in a new role that you might not, people might trust you with that, but then you might not know how to do things, or you might not have the answers when people approach you. And hospitality is so fast-paced, and I think across the board, not everyone has time to train and support people below them or people that they can have on their teams. You also probably want less burnout from trying to do it all, because there's something about when your confidence is hit, you work extra hard to prove your worth, prove how good you are. And of course, that's adding on to a normal day's workload in hospitality is a lot of energy that you expend. And also being the emotional support for everyone. And some of us are very good, me included, are very good at that. But then you just don't realize how much it drains your energy as well. Just because we're so natural at that. And we kind of dread growth opportunities because we just wonder how much it's going to take from us. So there's a way that it kind of prevents us from wanting more in our careers until we kind of feel comfortable with the next step. But that could also be, a way that, an undesirable way of how it manifests. On the other hand, you probably are ready for to be really assertive in your work and your leadership, be more decisive, kind of meeting opportunities and challenges head on rather than, from a place of being fearful and then digging into your inner self and finding courage. You want more self-trust and self-belief. You want to be acknowledged and respected by all stakeholders, customers, investors, managers, your team, every other party. You want to be acknowledged and respected. Suppliers, that could be the case, because I've heard of, especially with people who are so used to the culture of this industry, when they encounter a meeting, probably with a female leader, there's a not knowing how to react. And I know women have felt ignored by people either not talking to them directly or not listening to their opinions. So it happens in so many different ways. But you want that acknowledgement and respect from all stakeholders. And you also want to lead with ease, not with, not having a lot of conflict with people, but you also want to lead with ease. So in other words, if you had a magic wand, you want to command respect from your team instead of demanding respect. You want to be calm and confident in the face of big challenges. As I said, you want to be recognized for your work and for your leadership and for the impact you're making on your team, because you have taken on this role, and you are there to do more than just lead. You want to have an impact on your team, on the people around you. And all of the above, you want all that, but also without doing more work. It can't be another thing that you have to take on or be conscious of. And that's what I want to support you with today. So just a case study. About a year ago, I supported a manager, a general manager in coaching. She worked in the UK, in the north of the UK, and she was worried. She had just stepped into a new role. She was worried that she was out of her depth. She had taken on too much. But over time, we recognized that there was also the confidence of not being apt for that role and not having the aptitude or capabilities was making her just do a lot more. So she was trying to do a lot of tasks that she should have delegated. So no wonder that, she realized that she had all these things on her plate because she was taking them on, and she wanted to make sure that they were done to perfection. And that led to her being overwhelmed with the number of things that she had to do. So it was easy for her to see. And when we worked together, we were able to really see like what she brings to the table, and to really, really not only hone that, I mean, really tune into that and be confident in that. And, she has to do that bit, the rest of it, the other people can take on. So it was kind of sharing responsibilities and not doing it all herself, just because she didn't have the confidence that she would be a good leader. A little bit about why I'm doing this. And as I said, I'll give you a little bit of a bio. I am Aishu. I founded Love Letters to Chefs in 2016. I had worked as a pastry chef, and I saw what, not just, things that needed to change in hospitality, but I saw how some of the things in our culture, especially the brigade culture in kitchens, how that was affecting everyone across the board, and how all my colleagues were affected, their lives, their personal lives, their health, everything, relationships, all those things were affected by some of the things, because it's not just the industry that needs to change, but also there are some things that we have taken on, some ways of being that probably do not serve us. And I speak to both, where the industry needs to change as well as what we need to look at and review. It's like we hear about those restaurants that go down to 4 days a week, but they have staff members showing up 5 days a week, even though they have given them this facility, because our identity is so attached to how we are, how we show up at work. So there's a lot of things to be aware of. And that's what I try to impart through Love Letters to Chefs. And now I coach, especially female leaders, and also teach workshops to teams. And that's the kind of support I offer now. And why I'm doing this is because it's really funny. Over the last few months, I noticed a lot of women approaching me with this question. It's not very easy for us to talk about not having confidence, because we kind of have to project it. We've been given this opportunity. We kind of have to prove ourselves of how we meet the requirements of the role. And it's not always easy for women to talk about it, not having confidence. But they talked about feeling like an imposter, like all of us feel when we have this new opportunity or new role, a promotion, or start a new venture. And at the same time, they were also telling me about their well-being being affected in some way. And I saw this pattern and link between a number of women, and this is what I learned from that work. And the things that I saw were common, and the patterns I saw and the causes. So that's what I want to talk about in this webinar, because it might be of help to somebody to sort of recognize it before they encounter those challenges. So that's what we will cover today. Basically 3 main points that struggle with confidence, and how it ties into your struggle with well-being as well, how those two are interlinked. Number 2 is the habits that negatively impact the quality of your life. Ways, as I said, ways of doing, ways of being that you've probably seen modeled by others in hospitality, and you've taken them on, and it's worked so far, but then they impact your quality of life. And what is a different approach that you could take? Finally, also the mindset shift that you need to make in order to improve your confidence and enjoy better well-being. So there's one framework that I sort of unraveled, and I explain that as well. That's it. Yeah, the framework that shows you how confidence and well-being go hand in hand. Excuse me. But I want to start, this conversation would not be of value if I didn't really talk about the status quo. And I think that's really important to acknowledge. The struggles with confidence, the struggles with well-being are not just your problem. It's not your fault. Or, there's a part of it that is systemic. And unless we acknowledge that, it kind of makes it feel, makes it feel like it's very unattainable to get that confidence. But we have to just consider there are some obstacles and just be conscious of them. Women do experience, and it's not just me, I'm sure some of you have experienced some of these things as well, not being taken seriously, not being recognized for your contribution, not being respected or accepted as a leader. One of the members in my community shared that when she took on a new job during, I think it was 2020, she had to take on the head chef role, and she brought in a really different way of leading, really empathetic, really caring about the people and their growth and how they feel. But a lot of people really didn't accept that because that was not their experience. So even her intention to do good was not valued, was not, it was a really strange reaction. But this is how we are conditioned in some ways. So there are people who will not respect or accept you as a leader. Your authority can be challenged and undermined, questioned in many ways, and also being passed over for opportunities by people maybe less experienced or skilled than you. We experience all these things, and I always say, like, what's presented to us as equal opportunities, don't always take in consideration how much of a fight it can be for us, even to get there and to continue to thrive in that opportunity. You might not always receive encouragement or support. Sometimes it's intentional. Not acknowledging you is a way of keeping, you small. There's also the unintentional. I think people who are so fixed in their ideas about what a woman leader should be or how she should behave or the kind of role that she should play, that people have these fixed ideas and they don't support your growth. They might not support your idea of what you want to be as a female leader. They might encourage you to a certain extent till they feel they've done a good job, but it might not meet your requirements or what you want out of it. Just a very simple example, how when I was starting my career, the advice that my dad gave me on the first day as he was dropping me off to work was, make sure that if you're late, tell somebody, always make sure that you let people know if you're going to be late at work. And whereas when my brother was starting his career, I know he took him aside for a separate conversation. So I don't know whether it's because, generally men have more of a burden to support their families, so their work is really important. But, in this day and age, all of us work and support ourselves and support our families. And, if we have partners, we contribute to the income of the partnership. So it's just a different idea they might be having of what's valuable, because I'm sure my dad wanted both of us to do well, both me and my brother. So there might be unintentional ideas behind this as well. And also when you get into that new role, new promotion, there are so many, it's very common for all of us to feel like imposters. I'm sure you've heard of imposter syndrome, and it's very, very common for us to feel like imposters. And there's a lot of pressure on you to look the part, to look like you've got it all under control, because that's why they give you the trust. And I think we also put pressure on ourselves as women to make the most of this opportunity, because sometimes you've just been fighting so hard for it that when it comes, it just feels like a big deal. But the truth is that we're ready for it. So, and then, we also face intense scrutiny. I think women, especially if we see women in the public sphere, they have to face scrutiny over how they look, how they perform, how they dress, how, everything, every aspect of it is under scrutiny. So we are also conscious that we are, we are under intense pressure. And also we might not have grown up with models of women in leadership. Very often we might be the first generation of women in our families to have careers or roles of leadership, alongside the other things that we do alongside having families, if that's the case. But we don't always have models or mentors who can give us guidance. Also, all around us, we see women having to compromise, having to play small, and we've had to do that ourselves. So I just want to be very honest. The confidence is not just us. It's no wonder that all of these factors do affect our confidence when the time comes when we have that great opportunity or role or promotion. It's no wonder that it's affected. So is there anything that you would like to add to this that you experienced, Sophia? Anything that you want to contribute or anything that's landing with you so far?
Not really. I definitely experienced a bit of imposter syndrome in my time. I've read a few books on it and stuff. But no, nothing really to add.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, I've experienced as well. And I'm sure everyone, and not just women, I think men also go through imposter syndrome. I've heard of famous musicians feeling like imposters every time they go out on stage. So it's not just us. So going to the first point, the link between confidence and well-being. Firstly, I want to lead on from the systemic issues. When you don't get that support that you need, when you don't get the validation, you're always asking yourself, am I doing okay? Do you get me? You're asking to your team leaders and team members in your mind, am I safe to lead you? You might get stuck in a loop of trying to prove yourself because you just don't have that feedback of how well you're doing. And of course, when you add that extra effort to already a big workload, it is very intense for you. Overwhelm, you might experience overwhelm, anxious thoughts, simply wondering whether you can handle that, as you said, imposter syndrome, when you have that opportunity that comes your way. Can you handle it? The project or client or whatever it might be, or new opening, whatever scale of opportunity it might be. Burnout comes, sometimes it's just the lack of trust in your own capabilities, and that also leads to not being able to see the capabilities of others. And what happens is that you still take on a lot of the roles that maybe others you could delegate to others, and that can lead to burnout. So there's a connection between confidence, very clear connection between confidence and well-being there. Also, I don't know about you, but then I definitely relate to this, having a very strong self-critic, picking apart my performance, picking apart, picking apart how I've done or how I've responded to someone or the things that I've said. And there's a meme that you've probably seen, this male chef. I think he's at the end of his shift, he's in bed, he's probably drifting off to sleep, but he's worried about whether he switched the fryer off. And it's funny, but then also, is it very telling? Is it that, that we struggle with a lot more bigger questions than have I done well? Have I switched off the fryer? It's like, have I done well? Have I done my job well? Have I communicated things clearly? Have I resolved the problems? Have I caused a problem during service or whatever? It might be so many things. But yeah, we have our own self-critic. Especially when you don't get the validation, you're constantly finding, what is it? Am I doing well? You're constantly looking for clues as to how well you're doing. So just an exercise, if you would like to maybe take notes of, or just think about it in your head, without really sharing it. Just be aware of what are some of those things that your self-critic tells you. And also be conscious of whose voice that is. Also be conscious of where you've heard it before, where somebody perhaps growing up has made you conscious of those things about how you look, how you do things, how you speak. So where that voice came from. It doesn't have to be only early on in life. It can be very late. It can be as recent as last year, and then your confidence takes a hit. Someone making you very conscious of something you're not doing very well. And also look at the truth. This is also great exercise to do after these two questions. Also look at the truth, because there's always two sides to everything. There's a part that maybe you don't feel you've done as well as you could, and there's also the part of what you have done well. So anytime you do have that self-critic, you can always stop and ask it, what did I do well? What did I do? What's one thing that I did well? What's one thing that I can do better? That might be, I hope that's of help. And coming on to the habits that negatively impact the quality of your life. When you're struggling from, this is, I should say this is more for, this might be very familiar to women who have just taken on that next step in their career, who have just been promoted, or just landed their first leadership role, or it could be any of us, at any point in time, because like that imposter syndrome, you don't know when it comes on, when we might have all the experience in the world, but the next step might be more scary than anything else. That struggle from moving from being a doer to being a leader who shares the responsibilities, because a lot of us, I think there are some people who really are very intentional about growth and, about getting those promotions and getting ahead. But some of us are given the opportunities because we are trusted, because we've done a good job. We've proved ourselves as diligent and really good at what we do. And there's that tension between, we've got so far because we've done those things well. Now as a leader, you might not have the time to do everything yourself. It means delegating, but that tension between being appreciated for doing things well and then now no longer being able to do those things. So where is that appreciation going to come from? There's a little bit of tension there. When, the answer is probably to delegate, but it's not easy. So that's those kind of habits where we kind of stay on in the patterns of doing things well, and as we used to, even though we shouldn't be doing that heavy lifting for everyone else now. Because I think in a leadership role, your focus is, as you rightly know, it's not just about getting things done. It's about your growth, the team's growth, and getting the projects done, or whatever, filling the order if it's at that smaller scale, or it might be getting an event run successfully, whatever it might be. And also, some of us, like I'm guilty of this, that we are a bit of perfectionists. We have perfectionist tendencies. We are so diligent with what we do, but then they're carrying on that getting it right all the time, because not everyone might share those standards, and it's all about how you communicate. But also, you have to be able to identify when is done as good as getting it right, when is done enough, when is done enough, and when is done better than getting it perfect. So just making that judgment call, because those things can put a lot of pressure on you and others as well, especially the kind of workloads we handle in hospitality. It's something to be really mindful of. Being everything to everyone and experiencing something like emotional burnout from being that support system to everyone. Some of us have that nature of really caring about people, really seeing what they're going through, really seeing what they are experiencing, and good or bad. And that's a great quality. But then when you are everything for everyone, it leads to challenges. Also, not setting boundaries. I know this from the clients that I've coached. Like, what if they need me during my day off or when I'm on holiday, and not knowing that, having that clear idea of where do I stop and where do you begin, where do I end and where do you begin. Not delegating with confidence. And again, that ties into the first point where I said that seeing your own, what you bring to the table, helps you see that in others, and really being clear about the difference between the two. And burnout as well, because sometimes burnout comes from, you're just frustrated because you're doing the things that you're not supposed to be doing. Someone else should be handling it, but then you kind of have to teach them or have to help them get there to a place where they're confident in handling it themselves. So that can also be a cause where you are doing things that just don't feel right. And all of the above can lead to your communication as well being unclear. You are giving mixed messages to your team, like they're not very clear about where they stand. So you're probably spending a lot of time clarifying that to them, or they're checking in with you at every step. Maybe that's also a possibility. But also I think the bigger thing is that you're giving your subconscious a message that you're not a leader when you have these very mixed messages and worries about how well you're doing. So the first 2 points. I'm conscious that I've talked very much, but I just wanted to check in with you. Is anything landing? Is there anything that you resonate with, Sophia?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely very much. I do end up finding it quite hard to delegate a lot of the time because I've done things for so long and I've stepped up into my role. I tend to sort of. I've got a problem with I just carry the GMs that are under me now because I did their job for so long, and it's easier to balance doing that than difficult to put into words than kind of delegating things onto them, I guess. But yeah, it's something that I'm working on myself at the moment.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's so common. It's so common, and I've just to say you're not alone. I've experienced that and heard that from the women I've coached. So it's not. And also, there's the thing of hospitality being very fast paced. I also want to say that sometimes it's just easier. It feels easier to do it on your own and just get it
Yeah,
done.
that's it.
Yeah. So finally, we come to the last point, and which I think is important. It might not be 100% resonating with you, but I think it's an important thing. There's this pattern I sort of uncovered, and I definitely relate to this. I have to put up my hand and say that I've been through this, gone through this, and have to be really mindful. To really give a very quick rundown, it's when you're not feeling seen. As I said, there are lots of reasons why you don't feel seen, or you're not getting the feedback of how well you're doing. You tend to need validation. So starting from the top, you tend to need validation, and then that's doing more for others. You kind of want to be sure that you are doing your job well, and that's you take on doing more things for them, which in turn leads you to neglect your needs, neglect your workload, or maybe you're just adding to it and trying to manage doing everything else. That can lead to overwhelm, burnout, and just feeling really frazzled at the end of the day. Not having energy for yourself. Um, the thing with that is you're in a situation where you're doing a lot for other people. So they kind of have fallen into the pattern of expecting that. So when you need support, you're not going to get it necessarily. And then again, it leads to the feeling of not being seen, and that cycle just continues again and again. So it's easy for us who really care about others to fall into this. It's easy for those of us also who don't feel validated, who don't really get that feedback that how we're doing is okay. So it's very easy to fall into this patterns loop, and it just carries on and on. And I think when this happens, your kind of focus is more on the not feeling seen and doing things for others, etc., etc. It doesn't really become, the end result that you wanted, what you wanted to achieve in that promotion or new role or whatever it might be. It's not looking at your vision, but then just kind of managing your emotions and feelings in the moment, and really trying to fix that not feeling seen, not by doing more things for others. So that's something to really be aware of. And even if it doesn't show up, you don't resonate 100%, it's just valuable to see that there are sometimes we play a part in that dynamic, in perpetuating this dynamic.
No, definitely.
Would you like to add anything to that?
No. I do resonate with that quite a lot, but yeah.
A lot of us, yeah, a lot of us. So here I want to say that I can't say there's one solution for everyone, but one important thing is not seeing, is that we don't see and appreciate ourselves sometimes. And this is very common amongst women. I think we don't really see what we bring to the table because we are so good at handling so many things. We hold so much, apart from not feeling or not always feeling welcome in the industry, not always feeling like we have the support, but we hold so much and we do our work as well alongside that. And we just don't see ourselves enough, really not really appreciating what we bring to the table and really owning that.
Mhm.
So when you do that, when you are really, really sure of what you bring to the table, it becomes easy to see it in others. And then it also becomes okay to be the one to not have the answers, to not get it all done, to not have it all perfect. It becomes easier to trust that it's, the responsibility is shared. It becomes easier to delegate. It becomes easier to trust somebody will take over the kitchen or the operations or the front of house. Be the person on the floor when you can't be because you're away on a holiday or you have your day off or you have an important family event that you have taken time off for. So that's what really helps you. Seeing your capabilities and owning that opens up so many things. Definitely your well-being. So one last thing I want to do is a little exercise. It's just the last thing that we'll do. I would like to open up space for us to both to discuss what we bring to the table. Just share one thing, one good quality that others have maybe expressed or we are conscious ourselves of having it. Because I think it's really important for us to speak out those things that we do bring something to the table and really own that. I'm just going to go very quickly. I'm conscious of the time, but I'm just going to go very quickly and say, maybe I see others, I see what they're going through. Maybe that's the quality I bring to the table. Empathy, I would say, is the quality that I'm proud of and I know that I bring to the table. Sophia,
Yeah,
I'll leave it to you too.
yeah. To be honest, the one that I was thinking of was also empathy. I'm very, I can kind of understand what people are going through and kind of try to help them with anything like that as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so I think we should celebrate. We should celebrate each other. We should celebrate that quality and really recognize that there is a gift in it as well. There's two sides to it, as we saw in the previous, in the slide, that there is a side where we can take that too far, but as well, there's this. What a beautiful thing to be a leader and to see other people and to recognize, what they're going through because you anticipate what they need, what their needs are to grow, to fit into the role, to really grow into the role, whatever it is. So I just want to celebrate that. And finally, we just a little summary. We covered three things: how your struggle with confidence affects your well-being, the connection between the two, what habits might be negatively impacting the quality of your life, the ways of doing that worked in the past, maybe it's time to review whether they need to still be the way you operate. And finally, the mindset shift. You need to build your confidence and also enjoy better well-being. And this is that thing, the mindset shift. You have to tap into your innate confidence, and we can do that when we are really clear, as I said, about what we bring to the table. And it's not just one thing, there's a lot of things that we bring. So just being really owning that when we feel less than, when we feel unsure of how we're doing. And I think that's it. That's it for the webinar. Just one last thing I wanted to say is, if this is something that I can help you with, please get in touch. I support through coaching and through workshops, if it's workshops for your team or through one-to-one coaching, helping you really own that confidence and therefore enjoying better well-being, or a mixture of both, supporting you with confidence and well-being. Finally, also why we should chat, but also something to take away from it. Tap into your innate confidence. Be that leader who you are meant to be, because we need leaders, all flavor, all flavors of all expressions of leadership, all flavors, all types of leadership, and you are very valid. and what you bring to the table is really important, especially in hospitality.
Oh,
And you can enjoy the quality of life that you're ready for now. So I will leave you with that.
great.
Thank you for attending, and
Thank you very much.